students, how are you? I hope you are still keeping safe and healthy, and on top of that, respecting your parents. So this is Teacher Hilda, your English teacher for Senior 3, and I want you to get ready with your notebooks and pens for our lesson today. But before we start, I want to remind you that this program is brought to you by the Rwanda Education Board in partnership with Mastercard Foundation and IEE Rwanda. So in our lesson today, we are going to look at the present perfect continuous tense. The present perfect continuous tense. But before we start on it, I want us to remind ourselves on what we looked at in the previous lesson. In the previous lesson, we looked at describing daily routines, what we do on a daily basis. Or what do you do, let's say, when you wake up, certain things you do every day. Or when you wake up, let's say you say a prayer, you go to school. For example, if it is in a period of going to school, your daily routine is you wake up in the morning, say a prayer, bathe, and then go to school, and then come back maybe in the evening, among other things. It all comes down to what you do on a daily basis. So today we are going to look at the present perfect continuous tense. So I want you to write the present perfect continuous tense as your heading. The present perfect continuous tense. The present perfect continuous tense. So I want you to state something you have been doing from, let's say, the past few minutes up to now. For example, you can say we have been studying English for the past, let's say, 2 minutes. So I want you to state something you were doing before this time and something that you are still doing, so that we can try to understand more what present perfect continuous tenses are about. So when we talk about the present perfect continuous tense, you can also call it the present perfect progressive. So the present perfect continuous is a verb tense which is used to show that an action started in the past and has continued up to the present moment. The present perfect continuous tense is a verb tense which is used to show that an action started in the past and has continued up to the present moment. So the present perfect continuous usually emphasizes duration or the amount of time that an action has been taking place. It emphasizes duration and the amount of time that an action has been taking place. So we use the present perfect continuous tense to talk about one, an action that began in the near past and is still continuing. An action that began in the near past and is still continuing. So it does not matter how long the near past is. I'm going to read for you an example. He has been working as a doctor for a very long time. He has been working as a doctor for a very long time. It means that he is still working as a doctor. So the second one, we use the present perfect continuous, the time interval and the length of an action up to the present, using since and for. Okay? Using since and for. So we have said that we use the present perfect continuous to talk about an action which began in the near past and is still continuing. It does not matter how long the near past is. And the second one, we use it to talk about the time interval and length of an action up to the present, using since and for. For example, she has been lecturing since she finished her university. She has been lecturing since she finished her university. So we can see since she finished her university up to now, she is lecturing. The other example could be, we have been waiting for the new manager for 5 months. We have been waiting for the new manager for 5 months, meaning they are still waiting for the manager. Remember, we say that the present perfect continuous talks about an action that happened in the past, but it is still continuing. It is still happening. It is still going on. So we also use the present perfect continuous to draw conclusions. For example, his eyes are red. It is clear he has been crying. His eyes are red. It is clear he has been crying after that very difficult job interview. He has been crying after that difficult job interview. Okay, so we use it to draw conclusions. For example, if you see someone crying, you might conclude that maybe he or she has been beaten, or let's say they have had a misunderstanding, or she or he has hurt him or herself, depending on what comes into your mind. So we have said that we use the present perfect continuous to talk about an action which began in the near past and is still continuing. We use it to talk about the time interval and length of an action. And we also use it to draw conclusions.
Come along and play with us.
So I don't want you to confuse the present perfect continuous and the past continuous, okay? I'm going to tell you briefly about the past continuous, but before I do that, I want you to first construct for me a few sentences using the present perfect continuous tense. Construct for me a few sentences using the present perfect continuous tense. So like I'd earlier promised that I'm going to tell you about the past continuous tense, because I don't want you to confuse it with a present perfect continuous tense. When we talk about the past continuous tense, also known as the past progressive tense, refers to a continuing state that was happening at some point in the past. So the past continuous tense is formed by combining the past tense. So the major issue about the past continuous tense is that an action happened in the past. The past continuous tense refers to a continuing action or state that was happening at some point in the past. That was happening at some point in the past. I have some examples here. As I spoke, the children were laughing at my cleverness. As I spoke, the children were laughing at my cleverness. So you see that this happened in the past. But when we talk about the present perfect continuous, we talk about situations that happened in the past and are still continuing. It doesn't matter how long that something has been, like which kind of, or like for how long in the past, okay? So the present perfect continuous is formed using has or have plus been and then plus the present participle. The present perfect continuous is formed by using has or have plus been, then plus the present participle. So questions are indicated by inverting the subject and has or have, and negatives are formed with not. I'm going to give you examples. If it is a statement, you say, you have been waiting here for 2 hours. You have been waiting here for 2 hours. Let us change this into a question. What do you think it would read like, or it would sound like when we turn it into a question? It would read, have you been waiting here for 2 hours? Have you been waiting here for 2 hours? And in the negative, it would be, you have not been waiting here for 2 hours. You have not been waiting here for 2 hours. Now, like I said, that the present perfect continuous uses has or have plus been and then plus the present participle. Now, let us look at our example. You have been waiting here for 2 hours. Now, you see that in our example, we have a have plus been and then plus the present participle, which is waiting. Okay? So, the present perfect continuous is formed by using has or have, then plus been, and then plus the present participle. So like I said, we use the present perfect continuous to talk about an action which began in the past, let's say duration from the past until now. Maybe that could sound a little easier. Duration from the past until now. So we use the present perfect continuous to show that something started in the past and has continued up to until now. Okay? It could be for 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, and since Tuesday. Okay, those are all durations that are used in the present perfect continuous. Like the example I gave you, he has been working as a doctor for a very long time. He has been working as a doctor for a very long time. So let us look at maybe a number of examples about this. We could say, they have been talking for the last hour. They have been talking for the last hour. Then our other example, she has been working at that company for 3 years. She has been working at that company for 3 years. So do you notice the duration until now? So for 3 years up to now, she has been working at that company. They have been talking for the last 1 hour, meaning for the last 1 hour up to now, they are still talking. That is why we will say that we use the present perfect continuous to talk about duration from the past until now. James has been teaching at the university since June. James has been teaching at the university since June. So it means since June up to now, James is still teaching at the university. We have been waiting here for over 2 hours. We have been waiting here for over 2 hours. Why has Nancy not been taking her medicine for the last 3 days? Why has Nancy not been taking her medicine for the last 3 days? So I want you to notice that in these examples, they give us the duration from the past until now.
Come along and play with us.
So you can also use the present perfect continuous without a duration, such as for 2 weeks. So without the duration, the tense has more general meaning of lately. So we often use the words lately or recently to emphasize this meaning. I'm going to give you examples. Recently, I have been feeling really tired. Recently, I have been feeling really tired. So the other example could be, she has been watching too much television lately. So instead of using, let's say, hours, let's say for 2 hours, for 2 weeks, you can decide to use either recently or lately. Have you been exercising lately? Mary has been feeling a little depressed. Mary has been feeling a little depressed. Lisa has not been practicing her English. Lisa has not been practicing her English. What have you been doing? What have you been doing? So I want you to remember that the present perfect continuous has the meaning of lately or recently. So if you use the present perfect continuous in a question, such as have you been feeling all right, it can suggest that the person looks sick or unhealthy. So a question such as have you been smoking can suggest that you smell the smoke on the person. So using this tense in a question suggests you can see, smell, hear, and feel the result of the action. So it is possible to insult someone using this tense incorrectly. So like I said, you can leave out the duration and use either lately or recently. So I want you to also construct for me sentences without using the time and instead use lately or recently. Could write down like 5 examples in your books, and then we shall look at those examples. Okay, so it is important to remember that non-continuous verbs cannot be used in any continuous tense. Also, certain non-continuous meanings of mixed verbs cannot be used in continuous tenses. So instead of using the present perfect continuous with these verbs, you must use the present perfect. For example, Sam has been having his car for 2 years. So if you say Sam has been having his car for 2 years, that is wrong. That is not right grammar. The right grammar should be Sam has had his car for 2 years. Sam has had his car for 2 years. You cannot say Sam has been having his car for 2 years. That is not right. But you can instead say Sam has had his car for 2 years. Okay? So let us look at adverb placement. So the example below show how the placement of grammar or adverbs such as always, only, never, ever, still, just, among others. So I want you to listen to the examples. You have only been waiting here for an hour. You have only been waiting here for an hour. Have you only been waiting here for an hour? So that is it all about the present perfect continuous. But before we look at the exercise, let us go back and remind ourselves about what the present perfect continuous is all about. Does anyone remember what the present perfect continuous talks about? So we said that the present perfect continuous talks about an action which started before, now, and is still going on, like it is still continuing. The main concern is the time the action started. So the format, it can be a subject plus an auxiliary verb. You know what an auxiliary verb? It can be have or has, plus been, plus the verb, and the verb must be a gerund, must have ing. Let me read you an example. We have been studying to become lawyers. We have been studying to become lawyers. So in this sentence, you see that you started studying in the near past and you are still studying. You started studying, that is an action that started in the past, and you are still studying to become lawyers. I want you to note the subject in the sentence, we, that is the subject, and then the auxiliary verb, have, okay? Then plus been, okay, plus the verb, and the verb has to be a gerund, must have ing. We have been studying to become lawyers. So for whichever sentence you're going to construct using the present perfect continuous, remember that you must have a subject, you must have an auxiliary verb, that is have or has, you must have been plus a verb with ing, and then you can complete the sentence, all right? And I want you to remember since and for help us to know the time interval an action has taken place.
Come along and play with us.
So I want you to compare these sentences. Musafiri has been teaching since 2000. Okay? Meaning he began teaching and he is still teaching up to this year. So Musafiri has been teaching for 15 years. So if he started teaching in 2000, meaning he is still teaching. So he spent all these years teaching. Are we together? So we also say that we use the present perfect continuous to talk about an action which began in the past and is still continuing. It does not matter how long the near past is. We also said we use it to talk about the time interval and length of an action up to the present using since and for. And we also use it to draw conclusions. For example, if you see someone crying, or someone having red eyes, you conclude that this person has been crying. So I want us to write an exercise. So I want you to get ready. Our instructions are, I want you to write these ones in your notebooks and answer these questions. The instructions are, put the verbs into the correct form. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct form. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct form. Okay, and you have to use the present perfect continuous or the present perfect progressive. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct form. Number 1, he, open brackets, work. He, open brackets, work. Close brackets, dash, in this company since 1985. He, open brackets, work, close brackets, dash, in this company since 1985. In this company since 1985. Number 2, I, open brackets, open brackets, wait, close brackets, wait, close brackets, dash, dash, for you since 2 o'clock. For you since 2 o'clock. For you since 2 o'clock. Number 3, Mary, open brackets, Mary, open brackets, leave, close brackets, Mary, open brackets, leave, close brackets, dash, dash, in Germany since 1992. In Germany since 1992. Full stop. Number 4, why is he so tired? Question mark. Why is he so tired? Question mark. And a continuation, he, open brackets, he, open brackets, play, close brackets, he, open brackets, play, close brackets, dash, dash, tennis for 5 hours. Tennis for 5 hours. Number 5, how long, open brackets, learn, put a slash, yeah, then write you and then close brackets, dash, English, dash, English. How long, open brackets, learn, put a slash, then write you and then close brackets, dash, English, dash, English. So I want you to answer those questions. Write down the answers, then we shall look at the answers you have later. Okay, let us look at the answers you have. What answer do you have for number 1? What answer do you have for number 1? Okay, our number 1 should be, he has been working in this company since 1985. He has been working in this company since 1985. Since 1985. So the answer is, has been working. Remember, we say that you must use the present perfect continuous. And we say that present perfect continuous must have an auxiliary verb, which is has or have, plus a been, plus a verb with ing. So here, our answer would be, he has been working in this company since 1985. Number 2, let us look at number 2. What answer do you have for number 2? All right, the answer is, I have been waiting for you since 2 o'clock. I have been waiting for you since 2 o'clock. So the answer is have been waiting. Have been waiting for you since 2 o'clock. So let us look at number 3. Can someone tell me the answer they have for number 3? Number 3, the answer is, Mary has been living in Germany since 1992. Mary has been living in Germany since 1982. And number 4, why is he so tired? He has been playing tennis for 5 hours. He has been playing tennis for 5 hours. So our answer to number 4 is has been playing tennis for 5 hours. Number 5, how long have you been learning English? How long have you been learning English? So I want you to check your answers. If you have 5 out of 5, then you can clap for yourself. If you don't have 5 out of 5, keep trying. Keep revising, keep reading. Next time you have all the numbers correct.
Come along and play with us.
So that marks the end of our lesson. But before we sign out, I want us to remind to still look at what we have been looking at. Can someone tell me what we have been looking at? So we have been looking at the present perfect continuous tense. We have been looking at the present perfect continuous tense, and we said that the present perfect continuous tense, which is also called the present perfect progressive, is a verb tense which is used to show that an action started in the past and has continued up to the present moment. An action started in the past and has continued up to the present moment. So the form of all the structure of the present perfect continuous tense is that you must have a subject, you must have an auxiliary verb, which is either has or have. You must have been in your sentence, plus the verb which has ing. Okay? So until next time, I want you to continue keeping safe, continue being good students, continue respecting your parents. Until we meet again. Bye.
Goodbye, 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 teacher. Goodbye, children. See you next time. Goodbye, 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 teacher. Goodbye, children. See you next time.